This channel and community were built in my Harley Iron 883 adventures. I proved all the naysayers wrong and showed many that the Iron 883 is a very capable bike. But I'm in the adventure bike market and I'll have a new bike soon. Don't worry, Sportster fans. I also have plenty of sporty content to keep you going, so stick around. I've chosen a creative way to decide what bike is best for me. An 8-team playoff bracket. There are a lot of adventure bike options for 2020 out there, so let's get into it. No sense in delaying. In alphabetical order by brand, here are the bikes competing. BMW R1250GS, Ducati Multistrada, Honda Africa Twin, Kawasaki Versys, KTM 1290 Super Adventure R, Suzuki V-Strom, Triumph Tiger, Yamaha Super Tenere. Hey guys, I'd love to hear your questions, comments, and complaints about why the Harley Pan America isn't in this list. But the reality is, other than engine specs, Harley has not made any concrete details on this bike available, at least not in North America. Also, this is the first year for the Pan America when it comes out. I wouldn't buy a first-year model of any brand until any issues are worked out. This is especially true for Harley and the Pan America. Harley are in the midst of some really uncertain financial and business environmental times. That means the Pan America will enter a flooded market for the first time, and they'll be doing it as a struggling company. It's uncertain if the Pan America will survive. That's a bad hand right there. One that suggests it might be easier to fold rather than call or raise. And I honestly want a bike much sooner than Harley can provide the Pan America. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about how I chose these bikes. There are a lot of ways to classify best, especially for the many options in the adventure bike world. You can break these down into best off-road or sport tour, best power or torque, even the best for short riders. What I'll attempt to do here is present a comprehensive list of the overall best for me, while still providing enough information on these 8 bikes for you to choose for yourself. But keep in mind, the winners are based on what bikes work best for me. If you disagree with my list, leave me a comment below. If it's a good one, I'll share it at the end of the next video. Here are some of the main qualities I want out of an adventure bike. First, I want to ride off-road. My experience off-road has been fairly limited, so I'll need a bike that is great in the dirt, but doesn't feel as heavy as it actually is. I love long distance and other touring adventures, so the bike will need to be able to eat up the miles. Yeah, I know, this channel was built on Sportster adventures, but I've silenced the Sportster naysayers and more importantly, proven to myself that I could tour on a sporty. Now I want a different kind of long distance adventure. Also want the benefits of rider modes and aids. That likely means a TFT display and all the bells and whistles that come with it. ABS, quartering ABS, wheelie control, traction control, riding and power modes, and possibly having some option to set my own riding and power modes. Yeah, that's a tall order. No bike is perfect, so as I go through the details of these bikes, I'll have to decide what factors are most important. First bikes to face off are the venerable BMW R1250GS Adventure and the KTM 1290 Super Adventure R. The BMW R1250GS Adventure is part of the revered line that began decades ago and popularized by Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman's Long Way Round. It was a marketing coup for BMW because the R1250GS Adventure is the bike that adventure riders think about when talking about adventure bikes. Sitting at 1,254 cc's, this bike puts out 136 horsepower and 105 foot-pounds of torque at about 7,500 RPMs. It's heavy though. At 591 pounds, I'm not sure how much riding I could realistically do off-road. This bike may fall more into the sport touring category for me. That's not necessarily a bad thing as I plan to crunch a lot of miles on pavement. The R1250GS Adventure is by far the heaviest bike in the bracket. It seems unlikely that I could confidently ride a bike this heavy off-road anytime soon. Impossible? No, and I'm the type of person that would enjoy challenges like this, but I just don't see it being too enjoyable right out of the gate. Riding should be enjoyable, right? Since 2019, the GS Boxer engine has variable valve timing and variable valve lift. Both are an effort to reduce emissions while retaining power. BMW adopted a VVT system called Shift Cam that produces a quick and efficient combustion at high RPMs. A discussion of VVT technology is beyond the scope of this video, but a simplified explanation is that the GS has precise valve overlap at high RPMs. This is why the R1250GS is such a great sport tourer. Also, VVT provides a ton of low-end torque for off-road adventures. The problem is BMW's VVT is optimized only at low and high RPMs, and not at all for the rest of the range. Is this necessarily a bad thing? Maybe not. But for a bike we're likely dropping down at least 25k for, makes me a bit weary. Okay, other than a lot of power at the high end and great torque for off-road, what does the GS have to offer? Traction control and ABS that formerly could only be purchased as an option are now standard. Dynamic traction control has 3 selectable modes: Eco for reduced emissions, Rain for the wet, and Road. I get the 3 options, but is Eco mode really something most riders in the market for an adventure bike want? Sure, it will increase range, but with an already enormous 7.9 gallon tank, is it truly necessary for that? There are additional modes available as an option through Rider Mode Pro, Dynamic, Dynamic Pro, Enduro, and Enduro Pro, and a combination of those using pre-selections. Also included in Rider Mode Pro is something I'm interested in having on a new bike: electronic suspension adjustment. BMW's Dynamic ESA has automatic load leveling and automatic dampening mode. In all, a capable but very heavy bike. I do love the rider mode options, though I wish more were standard. VVT is intriguing to me, but I wish it was progressive in the rev range, like the VVT that Suzuki employs. How does the KTM 1290 Super Adventure R stack up? The conversation with the 1290 should always begin with horsepower and torque. 160 horsepower and 104 foot-pounds of torque. In the adventure market, nothing comes close to this 301cc motor. If you want to ride a powerful adventure bike on and off-road, the KTM 1290 Super Adventure R is your bike. It comes in at 529 pounds, 62 pounds lighter than the GS. If you want to equal the weight of riding the GS while riding the 1290, you might as well ride with the Golden Retriever on the back, because that's equal to the weight difference. Not only do you feel the weight difference, you notice the difference in size. The KTM just feels smaller than the GS. But the story of the 1290 is not all about power. There are 4 different rider modes: Sport, Street, Rain, and Off-Road. On pavement and Sport mode, the 1290 can be best described as a comfortable sports bike. This bike can pull, all while making you feel like you're getting an ass hug. Yeah, the GS is a more comfortable bike than the 1290, but not by much. And to achieve that comfort, BMW has built a much bigger bike, or at the very least, a much bigger feeling bike. I'm not sure that's worth it. The 1290 also has a bunch of touring amenities: electronic cruise control, a huge touring windscreen, heated grips, heated seats, and a large enough 6.1 gallon fuel tank good for traveling over 300 miles. These are nice features, but do you truly need a 160 horsepower adventure bike? Probably not, but even in sport mode, the power is smooth and manageable. The electronic suspension is a dream. In street mode, the 7.9 inches of travel is really composed as you ride energetically. Put the suspension in sport mode, and it allows more fork dive to shorten that wheelbase. Each mode truly creates a different riding experience on the 1290. How does the 1290 handle off-road? Its 19-inch front wheel matches the GS. With this wheel size, both KTM and BMW are trying to balance off-road rideability, where a 21-inch front wheel is king, with on-road riding, where a 17-inch front wheel is best. Off-road mode on the 1290 trims power down to a manageable 100 horsepower and reduces throttle response. But just like the GS, the 1290 is a big, heavy adventure bike. It's going to struggle a bit in the sand and up steep, gnarly hills. Or shall I say the rider will struggle a lot more than if on a lighter dual sport bike. What I really like about the 1290 is Bosch's motorcycle stability control, a system that constantly monitors acceleration, braking, weight transfer, and lean angle. The system instantly modulates braking or throttle based on the rider's inputs compared to all other factors. MSC also optimizes suspension dampening rates, keeping wheelies in check. I love my bacon, And what MSC does is save it when I'm not riding up to my abilities or beyond the conditions. The basic price of the GS is $25,500. With options and mods I'm looking for out of a bike, the cost will be well over $30K. The base price of the 1290 is $18,600. With a few additions and mods, I'll be in at about $22K. I like both the GS and the 1290. I'm about to unveil the winner, but keep in mind here, I'm choosing the winner based on what I want out of an adventure bike, which may or not be what you want. Which one would you choose? This video is a super quick synopsis of both bikes, so I'm sure I missed a few things. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what bike you'd choose and why. I'll include comments from previous videos at the end of the next video. I might include yours. And the winner is the KTM 1290 Super Adventure R. Whatever bike is the final winner, I'll likely be spending 60% on the road and 40% off. While I like the thrill of a challenge, I just don't want to struggle with the biggest, heaviest bike. So the 1290 has a slight edge over the GS here. I'm really hesitant about VVT on the GS. I want a torquey bike throughout the range. And that's another edge for the 1290. Finally, the biggest reason is because the 1290 is more bike for the price. At the end of the day, I just can't justify spending over $30K on a capable adventure bike I can get for 8 to 10 grand less. Stay tuned for the next video where the Triumph Tiger goes head to head with the Suzuki V-Strom. In the meantime, let's take a look at some of the comments from the previous videos.
The name of this first one is a bit challenging to pronounce. FRVNK, or what might be Father VNK, or possibly Frank with an upside down A. At any rate, he says, I bought a Saddleman fastback seat because of you, but I ended up with an XV950 instead. For those of you that don't know, the XV950 is the cousin to the Sporty, the Yamaha Bolt. That's a lot of bike for a damn good price. I will forever love Saddleman seats. They aren't paying me to say that. I love the ass pillow those seats really are. In the last video, I talked about overcoming post-adventure depression and compared it to planning and doing projects to overcome COVID depression. So I'm here to say, well, not me, the commenter's name is I'm here to say. Anyway, he said simply, plandemic. All I have to say is hell yes, I'm here to say. In the last video, I talked about how Kate and I would miss one another when I adventure alone. So Fran Bunny, who's been a friend of the channel for a long time, says, you know what the solution is for you and Kate? You give her the iron, and you get a new bike, and you adventure together. Fran, that's a brilliant idea. I don't see a comment from Kate there, but I hope she saw it because it's the best idea ever. Thanks for watching, everyone. Keep your wheels rolling in the right direction, and I'll see you in the next video.